Welcome back to Mid-Maryland Votes. Tonight we're diving into one of the most heated battlegrounds in America today, our school boards. Across the country, parents are pushing back and demanding a say in what's being taught in the classrooms. Here in Frederick County, the fight is front and center. The Apple Ballot slate, backed by teachers' unions and aligned with a more progressive agenda, is being challenged by the Common Sense Slate, which aims to bring more moderate to conservative, parent-focused voices back to the board. Joining us is Susan Centeneo, campaign manager for that effort. This is about the future of our schools and who gets to decide. Now let's get into it. Welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes. I'm your host, Mark Flynn. With me is my co-host.
Hello.
And we have a very special guest tonight. We have Susan Centeneo joining us, and she represents the Common Sense Slate here in Frederick County. Susan, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Can you let our viewers know a little something about yourself, Susan?
Yes. So I live in Spring Ridge in Frederick, Maryland. I've been here since the 90s. I'm a realtor and an associate broker. I've been in real estate ever since I moved here, really. I worked for some builders and then got into regular real estate, even had my own brokerage for a while. Worked as a hired broker for another company. And right now I'm with Sampson Properties, and I love it. I love what I do. I always have. Doesn't feel like work.
So if people need to sell their home, they need to contact you as well, Susan. Not just for the Common Sense Slate, but the Common Sense Sell.
That's right. The Common Sense agent. That would be me. Yeah.
Awesome.
And you do have some additional involvement in the community. Can you tell us about that?
I am the campaign manager for the Common Sense Slate. The Common Sense Slate is it's Jeff Seidel, it's Shelley Potter, and Tyler Walker. They are amazing candidates. They're conservative candidates. But actually, the school board candidates should, I'm not saying they do, but they should kind of be nonpartisan, because everybody should be on board with the kids. We should all want academic excellence. We should all want everything, that is right for the children. Unfortunately, it does get a little bit political, and we are the conservative slate, but my crew is just amazing. They're educated. They are wonderful people. They're dedicated to the kids. 2 of them are or have been teachers, very well educated. They're just wonderful people, and they're good. They love kids. They want to do the best for them. And everybody's really donating a lot of time and a lot of energy, and they have a lot of energy. And I think I bring some energy to the table to help them. And the chemistry is good too. They really are a team. Like, for example, Jeff kind of focuses on the fiscal, and Shelley focuses on the academic and education and higher test scores. And Tyler, a military guy, former teacher, he's all about safety and security in the schools. And yet they're aligned with everything else, even though they have their own little special niche that they want to work on.
So, Susan, you represent an entity that basically, the Common Sense Slate talks about the liberal policies and how they're affecting our children from these school boards. Frederick County is absolutely a liberal school board. The majority of the people on this school board do tend to lean liberal. What do you think? What are the 2 or 3 policies that this school board that has enacted or is trumpeting that is hurting our children?
Well, for one thing, fiscally, and it is hurting the children, even though it has to do with money and the budget. Frederick County has a $1 billion budget, $1 billion just for this county. And that has gone up. I think in 2000, it was 400 and something, and now it's $1 billion. But the population of the kids hasn't gone up that much. I mean, nothing has really called for the budget to go that high. And one of the things that they want to do is get the budget higher. They're asking for over $1 billion now. And the money is not really going toward the kids. If it was going toward the kids, I think our academics would be better. It's really not. It's really not. And the way they propose to get, pay for that extra money, I think everybody, certainly that's a homeowner ought to know, they are proposing that we raise property taxes. So where I live, I don't have city tax, but I do have county tax. It's quite high. And I know that as a realtor in the city, it's very high. And definitely heard firsthand one of the candidates say, well, we'll just raise property taxes. That's how we should pay for it. And I don't think the homeowners in Frederick County are going to appreciate that. We don't need $1 billion anyway. We really don't. One of our candidates, Shelley, she worked at United Emirates, and she taught in United Emirates and some other places overseas. And she said they had really shoestring budgets. And those kids, even the ones with English as a second language, just far exceeded academically with just, some paper, pens, and textbooks, and very, very low budgets. And they blow us away in test scores and in academic excellence. And it's just astounding. I don't think we need $1 billion. I don't think we need, because that's about $21,000 per child. Surely $21,000 per child per year is more than enough to provide them with what they need and teachers and everything. It's crazy. So that's one thing they want to do. Another thing that they want to do is stick with boys and girls in the same bathrooms and the same changing rooms, which we think is not common sense. We think it would be common sense to have them separated for all kinds of reasons, privacy, dignity. You know what it's like, especially when they're getting their hormones running and all this stuff. And no offense to you guys, but boys can be really goofy and ignorant and stuff.
No, not us.
But, it's just a prescription for trouble. We are also all about academic excellence and getting there in a totally different way. We support a more classical, traditional way of learning. And I know that some of the things that they've been doing academically for some years now have been kind of experimental. Like, let's not teach math the way we've always taught math. Let's do it this way. Oh, gee, that's not working. 30% of kids can pass basic algebra. 30%. That means 70% cannot. And reading and math and everything, it's all the same. The test scores are not that good. And when the other side says, oh, they're going up, well, maybe they went from 51 to 54. Yeah, they're going up, but that's still an F. That still sucks. That's bad, So we think that school should be about school, subjects, reading, writing, math, sciences, history, geography, and of course the arts. There should be art, there should be music and phys ed, right? That's what the schools should be focusing on. And we believe that they should be teaching in a more traditional manner to get the test scores up and to drive home academic excellence. I mean, isn't that the main reason? We don't think it's the place for ideological things or indoctrination in any way. I mean, we don't want it from any quarter, okay? We're not just saying we don't want a liberal ideology. We don't want any ideology. We want learning, education, kids that can read, kids that don't just get shoved through and graduate and they can't read and they don't know math and they can't spell, they can't write. Now, that's not to say that there aren't good teachers. There are very, very good teachers. But when the teachers have to teach a certain way, no matter how good you are, if you're teaching math in a strange manner that goes against the way people have been learning math for decades and decades, and it doesn't really matter maybe how good you are if you have to follow certain curriculums that we think a lot of the curriculums are a little bit silly.
Susan, you bring up a great point. We know that really for going on 30 plus years now, we have dropped in international rankings.
Yes.
Here in Maryland, we went from 15 years ago being 34 points above the national average to our current number is 4 points below the national average.
Right.
You mentioned algebra. You brought up algebra. I think it was 10 years ago that we had a 75% passing rate in Frederick County, and you just said that we're down to a 30% passing rate. These sorts of cataclysmic numbers, like this amount of failure, this doesn't happen accidentally. Like there actually is a purposeful decision that's made to create these policies over and over again in the face of what is obvious declining benefits and failure for children.
Right.
Do you have an idea of what the motivation could be for the individuals on the other side of this multi-decade process at this point? What are they saying to justify this to themselves or the community?
Well, that's an excellent question. And we talk about that all the time. And I don't really know exactly what they would individually say. But what happens is this: the union is behind a lot of it. And the union right now is trying to get teachers to just be teachers 4 days instead of 5 and a few other things, right? So what's the solution for that? Hire more teachers. And if you have more teachers, you're getting more union dues, you're getting more money. And the union is therefore taking care of itself, right? And I think, speaking of the unions, this is very important. I think that a lot of teachers do not realize that they don't have to be a member of the union. It's not a requirement. And I think a lot of them think that they have to. You don't have to be a member of the union. You can save yourself I think it's $700 and some per year in dues. You get the same benefits, the same pay, the same, actually you get better liability insurance. If you're not a member of the union. And I do know some teachers who they agree with our Common Sense Slate. They agree with, what we are trying to accomplish here. It's sad, but I think that people really need to start speaking up for the sake of the kids, because we can't keep shoving this. You asked what was the motivation. Well, I will tell you 2 experiences that I had recently that may or may not answer the question. I watched a video and it was a recent panel of all the liberal school board candidates. And they were being questioned, same question for every single one of them, by liberals who wanted to hear where each one stands, right? I heard the whole thing. I listened to it twice. And the buzzwords were that you heard over and over and over and over and over were budget, more money, better pay for teachers, which we're not against that. We want good teachers. We want, the pay to be appealing to them. We want teacher retainment, right? Equity was mentioned 55 times. Nobody said anything about academics. Nobody said anything about test scores. Nobody said anything about discipline in the classroom. Nobody said anything about just getting rid of chaos in the classroom, which there's a lot of chaos. I don't know, but I heard nobody say anything about things that are important. Nobody said anything about the merged bathrooms and changing rooms. Apparently they're all okay with that. One of the candidates said, and we got to keep the freedom of reading too, and I believe he was referring to just a few books that are in the library that are just they're trash, they're porn, they're child porn, they're grooming tools. I think it's terrible. There's only a couple of books. What's the big deal? Get rid of them. But, they're okay with everything the way that it is. Now, I was told something very, very interesting, and that is that Dr. Dyson, that she is really much more conservative in her personal beliefs than one would believe that she is, which I don't know if that's true or false. But the person also said that if the school board got a couple of more conservatives on it, they thought she would start being a little bit more true to what she might really believe. And I think it's difficult for the liberal people to speak out when they do disagree, because then they're either a bigot or a traitor or you're racist or you're one of those crazy buzzwords that is false. If you speak up, it just means that you really care about kids and their safety. And what about preserving their innocence? It's not their business to teach them those things. They should be teaching them how to read, write, spell, their colors, their numbers, whatever. They should be free to be kids. And I do think that a lot of parents don't really know what's going on in the schools. I really do. I think they don't know. But if my crew gets elected, they're going to make sure that the parents know. And they're also going to make sure that the parents are aware that the Supreme Court recently said, you can't keep secrets from parents anymore. You can't not tell parents what's going on with their kids anymore. We have a lot of work to do, but actually, if we can get in there, we can make a lot of positive changes that read, write, spell, add. I mean, these are just basics. We don't care if they know what transgenderism means. We don't care if boys know about girls' periods and we don't care. It doesn't matter. Were you taught about any of that stuff? I wasn't. Maybe in high school, there was a health class. I don't know.
I didn't know a single personal fact about any of my teachers ever. I didn't know if they were gay or straight. I didn't know if they were Democrat or Republican. I didn't know anything about them other than I better get my work done or they're going to put a foot in my ass.
That's right.
what it was back then. But now all of a sudden in the classroom, ideology and curriculum, have become kind of synonymous. You
That's
mentioned
right.
earlier, Susan, you were talking about the innocence of childhood. And we recently had Jamie Brennan on, who's a school board member. She said that somebody approached her after one of her meetings and said that her view of keeping her child's innocence for as long as possible was a position of privilege.
And this was an executive in the public schools who made
Really?
that comment.
So basically, that person was saying only white parents care about the innocence of their children. Is that what they were saying?
Interesting.
That it's white privilege and only white people care about their kids? I would think the vast majority of parents would like to have their children's innocence preserved as long as possible. And what does that mean? What does that really mean? Preserve the innocence. It means that they should be playing and running and having fun and learning and having age appropriate conversations with their families. And I really don't understand where a lot of these people get off thinking that what the parents think or teach in their homes doesn't matter. It's only what they decide that should be taught matters. When I saw the liberal school board having their question and answer thing, one of them said that we should have classes that, teach about transgenderism, and he mentioned a couple other things. And I was thinking, really, why are we wasting time in the schools teaching about stuff that is just such a small percentage of people? When I was growing up, like you said, I didn't know what my teachers were. I didn't know if they were married. I didn't know what their political affiliation was. I didn't know what their sex life was all about. And I think it would have been inappropriate if we did know, because it was none of our business. They were there to teach us. We were there to learn. It's really common sense. And that's why my Common Sense Slate chose common sense, because a lot of the stuff is just crazy. Now, do I think people need to be mean and rude and dismissive of transgender kids or gay kids? Or absolutely not. That's not what we're about. Everybody's going to be what they are, right? But I don't think school is the place to push anything, to teach things that kids and people find out and learn all about on their own. It's just not the forum for it. It's not the forum. That's not what they're there for. And I think that a lot of educators that are in the higher positions and the people that make some of these decisions think they know better than the parents because they have a degree. Well, a lot of parents have degrees. Many, many, many parents have degrees. And many people who don't have degrees have a lot of common sense and intelligence where it comes to their kids and everything else. It's a waste of time. It's taking away from academic learning. It's taken away from all the things that kids should be doing. When we went to school, we had fun. We didn't want to be in school. Nobody really wanted to be there, but we had fun. It was wholesome. We were learning. We were expected to learn, sit up straight and pay attention. Yes, I went to Catholic school. I had nuns. Here's the prescription for ADHD. Sit up straight and pay attention or else.
And a ruler. Don't forget the ruler.
Yeah. There was some of that too. Not that I'm in favor of corporal punishment, but it certainly didn't hurt us the little bit that we got. But honestly, we were accountable for our actions. That was the thing. The classroom had to have discipline. The teacher was in charge. The teacher was in charge, not the kid. But if you were in trouble with the teacher, you were going to be in trouble with your parents too, because they were not going to, tolerate this. To be fair, the liberal panel did say, and we agree with it too, we all think cell phones need to be done away with. Kids should not have cell phones in school. But I do think that there are good teachers in the schools. I do think that the teachers deserve good pay. We do think that in the classroom, there should be aides that are specific to kids in the classroom that need help from an aide. If there's a special ed child in the class that may need some extra attention or whatever, I think that the aide should be qualified in special ed, that they should have some special training.
And one of the things that comes out is that when you look at what's happened to the literacy rates, okay, what you have to face if you're really looking at the data and going by the data is that our level of education our level of illiteracy, level one. And what that is that's basically the ability to fill out a job application, right? The inability, the percentage of students graduating with degrees that are not able to fill out a job application is to the point that we are almost at a high, or that we are possibly at a higher rate than what African American students were in the Jim Crow South. So in other words, this DEI type of education system has degraded education. How do you see us possibly breaking this focus on race and gender and just, again, focusing on the academics of children?
One of the questions that was asked of the panelists was, how would you deal with bullying of Black students, Hispanic students, transgender students, gay students? And I thought to myself, my God, why isn't the question, how would you deal with bullying with any student? Wait, did you forget? I guess it's okay to bully the white kids. It's okay to bully the kids that are straight and white. I don't know. Everything was mentioned except that. It was a stupid question. The question should be, how do we deal with bullying? Now, one of the ways that it's dealt with right now is called the restorative practice. And they try to figure out why the bully bullied. Like they figure that he must have had some kind of trauma in his life or at home or something that caused him to bully. Having to sit through that, the victim has to sit through it. It's just like uncomfortable. Imagine being a kid and you're the victim and you got to sit there and they're coddling the bully and trying to figure out why did you bully? Hey, you bullied and you need to not do it anymore. And here are your consequences. And here's your appropriate punishment. We just don't do it. And we don't bully any child, no child of any color, persuasion. Kids are kids. They're innocent. You got to protect them. The question should be, how do we protect every child? The Frederick Classical Charter School, which is the school you get into by lottery, right? You look at that school as a guide. That school is more diverse than most schools in Frederick County. It's an extremely diverse school, and you get in there by lottery. And so you've got white kids and Black kids and Spanish kids and Asian, you have all kinds of kids. And you know what? They're all learning at great rates. They are all behaved. They are learning manners. When somebody comes into the room, an adult, they stand up. Good morning. How are you? They're taught how to act in school. They're taught to have respect for adults. They are taught the same way, and the standards are the same for all of them. So I think that if the public schools behaved in a similar way and had accountability like they have and taught them some manners and incorporated that into true academic classical learning, there would be no problem. When people constantly make excuses for some kids because of their race, or you try to, lower the standards to accommodate those kids, you are damaging every single one of them. You're damaging the kids that are marginalized in the first place. I did see a copy of the budget from, I think, last year, and there are so many vagaries on that. You don't know what they're talking about. You don't really know where it went. You really don't. And it was very confusing. Now, Jeff Seidel, he's the fiscal guy. He wants to have a very transparent budget. So any regular person, you guys, me, the parent, anybody can look at it and know where the money went. Right now, you can't.
So, Susan, you mentioned the charter school, and we've actually had Tom Newmark on, who was one of the founders of the charter school.
Yeah.
Not only are those kids better behaved, not only are their academics light years ahead of other public schools, Tom his school got 70 to 80% of the budget of a regular school child going to a public school. So not only did they do all of these incredible results by going back to the basics, they did it for less money.
Yes, thank you. We think you can do it for less money. We think you can do it for less than $1 billion.
And I would refer our viewers to the earlier show with Tom Newmark. I'll leave the link in the remarks if you'd like to see it. It's a great show. Tom really understands the concepts very well. But back to a point you made earlier, Susan, you talked about the school board and how it was influenced by the unions, the teachers' unions. Now, I'll tell you, as a Democrat growing up in Massachusetts, I always thought the teachers' unions were pro-child. Clarify that for our viewers. What are the unions all about? And are they really as damaging as people are giving them credit for right now?
The unions are all for getting more and more teachers, which puts money in their pockets. They are for getting more and more money, excuse me, for the teachers. We're not opposed to that. We're not opposed to good pay. This is a hard job. It's a very important and a very serious job. So we're not adverse to really good pay and really good benefits for teachers. But the union is not for the kids. The union is for itself. They're not supposed to be a political organization, but they are a political organization. And
85 to 90% of their donations go to Democrats, especially far left liberals.
Exactly. And those far left liberals are the ones that want all this crap in the schools. The unions, of course, the unions want more and more teachers because the unions get the dues. The unions get more and more and more and more and more money. So it's a political organization. There are donations that are political. If any teacher is listening to this, know that you don't have to pay those dues, even if you're okay with that stuff. Save yourself some money. You don't have to. You get all the same benefits, same salary, same everything, and cheaper liability insurance, And the more teachers that say, I'm not going to be a member or don't join, the better for them, the better for the kids. And who cares about the unions? Because they're very, very, very biased, and they have a lot of backdoor agendas. Like,
to your point, yes, we, with the teachers union, have a political organization that makes money, makes a profit off of the political stances that they hold and the politicians that they get to vote in those political positions. Thank you for coming on. You have given us a lot of great information. You've told us about some really very promising candidates. If you could tell us, how could our viewers support you and your candidates?
Well, first of all, come to some school board meetings so you can see and hear for yourself kind of what's going on. Make sure you ask your whatever school your child goes to for a copy of the curriculum. Know what your child is being taught. Here's another thing. Drop in. You can go to the school and sit in a class. You can sit in the cafeteria and have lunch with your child. You can go there, and you should go there. And if you're not happy with something, don't just think you have to swallow it. You don't. What all that my candidates want to do, really, it's really very simple. We're conducting a very positive campaign. We just want to talk about what we're going to do for the good of the children. That is common sense. June 23rd is the primary, and November 3rd, I think it is the actual election. But we really need people to come out and vote. A lot of people know who they're voting for governor and this, that, and the other, but they don't know anything about the school board. Like, that's the last thing on their mind. And, but if you just remember, Seidel, Potter, Walker, Common Sense Slate. There are two other candidates also, Heather Fletcher and Sam Rosenblum. You know what? I think my candidates are astounding. I think that those two are astounding. I think that we just need to get as many on the board as possible. And I think that it will make every bit of difference. The one thing I really want you to know, they don't care about the unions. They don't care about money other than to get the budget down. They care about the kids. Let's teach them again. I don't know how anybody would want to function in any way other than for kids.
Well, Susan Centenio, we appreciate you being on the show on Mid-Maryland Vote.
Well, if you just go to Common Sense Slate, you'll find it. And then the individual candidates all have a Facebook page, obviously, and Instagram, and the other social media sites. We welcome questions. We welcome debate. We're trying not to view the other candidates of the liberal candidate. They're not our enemy. I think that they don't really understand how bad things are, and they're focusing on things that don't matter, and they're losing. They're looking at the forest, for the trees. They're not focused. School choice is a must, and parents should have the right, and they should get some of the money, some of the funding out of that $1 billion that would go to their kid if their child was in the public school. They don't want to lose the money. They don't want to lose the control. The union doesn't want to have less teachers, because if there's less kids means less teachers, right? Right. So I think that's why Governor Moore and a lot of the union itself, and some of the school board members that are on there now, I think that they don't want school choice because they want to have control, and they want to have every dollar that they can possibly have in their budget. In the classical charter school, 85 to 90% consistently pass Algebra 1. They can do it. They exhibit proficiency, right? To 30% in Frederick County. Yeah, the classical charter school is an excellent example, oh my God, of how things can work for all kids, regardless of race, color, creed, whatever. They are doing amazing. And if my candidates or any of the candidates on the conservative side get on there, things are going to change. Let's make sense. Let's do what's right. Let's stop the insanity, because it really is. It really is insane. And I've got lots of friends and neighbors that are Democrat, and they want to stop it too. They do. I think we'll get some votes. Maybe they'll be silent about it, but I think we'll get some votes because those that have children would like to see them succeed.
I have a lot of friends like you in my neighborhood who are liberals, and there's also many who are teachers, and all of them feel like change is needed. They just,
Thank you. Yes.
And the teachers especially are really good in Frederick County. We have got some great teachers.
Agree.
But the problem is many of them have been brainwashed by the union to think that, that throwing money at a problem is the only way to fix it. Well, Susan Centenio, thank you again for being with us. We really appreciate having you on there. You got to promise come back as the election gets closer.
Oh, I'd be happy to. And don't forget to call my candidates and have them on too. They're great.
We will absolutely give them a call.
My evening was successful. Thank you.
Oh, you did a great job. We really enjoyed having you.
Yay.
Hey, this has been Mark Flynn with Mid-Maryland Votes. With me, as always, is my co-host,
Ethan Lowen.
We want to thank Susan Centenio for being on the show with us tonight. Get involved, people. The only way things change, especially with school boards, is for you to get involved. Do your research. Even if you don't have children in the system, you need to understand how the system works in order to help all of the children. And that's who we should be helping. That was Susan Centenio, campaign manager for the Common Sense Slate, outlining a clear alternative to the Apple Ballot slate, which is backed by the teachers' unions and aligned by a more progressive agenda. At the heart of this debate is a fundamental question, folks. What should our schools prioritize? However you see it, the direction of education in Frederick County will be decided at the ballot box. Thanks for tuning in to Mid-Maryland Votes. Like, follow, and share for more content like this, and we'll see you next time on Mid-Maryland Votes.